Just going to pull this up so I can see your comments. Sunday evening, 6:30 p.m. In the evening on a Sunday night. I realise it's probably different where different people are. That's the nature of where I live, in the middle of what feels like nowhere. But hey, there you go. Is this coming up yet? Okay. Oh, there we go. But yeah, New Zealand has some benefits of living here. Been kind of busy, man. It's been one of those weekends. Not busy with gigs, but family stuff, you know. My mother moved into a new house, so I went and helped her move stuff, and so it was a little scary doing that stuff, you know, lifting stuff and kind of putting your hands inside couches and whatever, and you're thinking, am I gonna do something? How's everybody doing? So I heard from Glenn the other day that the new pickups are on the way. Can't wait. I was just investigating what pots to go for. These are we actually swapped these over and put 1 meg pots in here. It originally came with 500k, but swapped them over to 1 meg pots to try and brighten these pickups, because these pickups are really quite dull. They're quite hot P90s, and I just find the ceramic magnet, so I just find they're just a little too hot. So we went to 1k, and that actually helped quite a bit, surprisingly. Kind of took the guitar and improved it a lot. But I know what will happen once I get some lower output pickups in there. It'll start to sparkle again. Because that's kind of what's missing in it. If I go to the clean sound, so it's good. It's just very mid-range heavy. See what I mean? I dig it though. Hey, do let me know if you can hear everything. If you can, it's all coming through clearly. I hope it is. One thing that's kind of interesting about this guitar is when you go to those in-between settings. So at the moment, I've got it on neck and middle, and that's sort of has a little bit of that Stratocaster thing. You've got to have the face to do that stuff, right? You can't be like, you gotta be. Like my friend Bruce Foreman says, try and smile while playing the blues. You can't really do it, right? Try it. Cheers, everybody. It's been actually a beautiful day here in Wellington. It's been really nice. It's about 15 degrees Celsius, which is about 10 million Fahrenheit. I have no idea. But, you know, it's kind of summery feeling. Hey, and thanks so much for everybody's kind words about the Lydian thing, the video that I did the other day, yeah, and I appreciate everyone's comments. I had an interesting comment from someone that said that what's the point in doing these digital patterns? Just play melody. To me, that is the point, right? Like if you go. To me, that sounds like Bach or something like that. That in is the melody, and the point of doing it to me is like, I mean, you never want to do anything if you're just doing it to do an exercise. I don't see the point in that, right? You want to be doing it to make music, right? So to me, it's like playing changes is just going to mean you're going to have a more command of music. So it's only going to be good. So we've got some questions here. So it's nice to see a collection in the background. Do you get much use out of the banjo? Actually, I do, surprisingly enough. I have a 6-string banjo, so some would say that's cheating, but I'm probably the only guy around who has a banjo in this town who reads. All right, and that's one of those things. If you need that, then there's one person to call, right? I've had a couple of people ring up and say, "Oh, can I borrow your banjo?" And I'm like, "No, sorry. I'd like to help you, but the whole reason I have that instrument is so that I get booked for stuff. But it's sitting over there. There's a bunch of guitars lying around the place too. Like I got a bunch of them out, kind of leaning against the walls, and there's a couple over there too. And there's about 3 or 4 upstairs. Yeah, so the banjo's tuned like a regular guitar. So when I'm reading, I can literally just read like I'm playing guitar parts. A couple of years ago, I did a concert series with the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra where they played Frank Zappa's music. It was a lot of fun. And Frank had written this music, which was for a steel string acoustic guitar, nylon string acoustic guitar, and banjo. And mandolin. So I played banjo and mandolin. They had a classical guitarist on the nylon string, and they actually had a classical guitarist on the steel string. That music was insanely hard, right? But played banjo, right? And I've had a bunch of stuff where I've had to do it. Usually on the theatre shows, I'll play mostly electric guitar, and then there'll be 1 or 2 tunes on banjo. When I did that movie game concert earlier in the year, I used the banjo for that, for maybe 2 or 3 tunes. What was it called? It was Stardew Valley, which is a very popular video game. I didn't know it, but apparently it is a really popular video game. And I play banjo and mandolin as well as acoustic guitar. I don't think I played electric at all on that gig. But yeah, it gets a bit of use with me. So it's just tuned like a regular guitar, and you just picture it like you're playing all your normal guitar parts. It doesn't sound 100% like a banjo because banjo voicings would be slightly different, but I don't care about that. That doesn't matter to me. How long have you had the guitar for? Do you mean this guitar? If you mean this guitar, I've had this guitar. I've had this since probably 2007, sometime around then. No, it must be before that. 2006, 2005. So I remember using this when we did Dancing with the Stars, that TV program. I did 5 years of playing on that show. No longer exists, unfortunately. But I remember using this on the show, and I think we were doing that in 2007. So I must have got it before that. The year date on it is 2001. You can kind of see the handwritten pence, written in black marker pen, serial number, because that's how custom PRSs were back in the day. Now they're all kind of, that would all be stamped on a machine and what have you. But yes, I've had this for a number of years. I've kind of not been happy with the pickups. I've been going through a bunch of different pickups trying to find the right combination. And I think the issue I had was I didn't want to go with P90s because I wasn't happy with the P90s, so I kept searching for something else. So I had 2 mini humbuckers and a Strat pickup for a little while, and then I got a Strat pickup put in here, like housed under a P90, just sticking out of the same cover, and that was better. And then I went, these are the original pickups, which I've gone back to, but Glenn's making me some of his, and he's making me P90s, but slightly underwound, like more vintagey vibe. So I'm really looking forward to those. They'll be coming next week. The 3 times P90s sound great to me. Yeah, they do, don't they? That's interesting. But I'm also interested to hear after you update the pickups. Yeah, they do. The thing with this, they're just too hot for my liking. Like that's pushing pretty hard. It's actually like on the fractal you have this little meter that goes green, 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 red, right? And what they say is you want to have it just tickling the red with your pickups to set the input level. It's not to do with clip or anything, it's just to do with how much signal's coming in, right? Most of my guitars kind of just tickle that red. The DGT probably just tickles it a little more than the others. This is like slams the red. It's that much hotter. The other thing too, I was talking to Glenn about it, that It's not just like the ohm rating that you should look at with pickups that kind of determine their output and that stuff. And he's exactly right. I only use that as an example, like if you say something 6.5K gives people some kind of measure, but it's not a very accurate measure. Cheers, people. The other thing to remember is these pickups here are very mid-range heavy. And so therefore, if you're pushing the mid-range hard, it'll seem to be pushing harder. So I think what will happen by going to the new pickups, more than anything, it'll just be a change of EQ. And that's what I want. So it's really mid-range heavy. It's even clipping the clean channel, which I have fairly clean on this amp. What's your thoughts on Guthrie Govan? I'm going to see him live next year as they're in Melbourne. I think he's amazing. I think that guy's like freakishly good. I don't particularly like some of the music he plays. I think some of the music kind of gets a little bit guitar head for my liking. But what an incredible technician of the guitar and just a monster player. And some of his music I really like. I like his stuff when he was playing with Hans Zimmer. I thought he sounded really good in Hans Zimmer's group. And, he kind of suited that group because he had to pare back what he did, right? It was like he was part of a larger picture. I like some of the stuff with the Aristocrats. I mean, I think he's great. He's a really good guitar player, and he's kind of a quirky character. He seems like quite a fun sort of guy. I've never met him. I'd like to meet Guthrie. I don't think he's ever been out here. Cheers, everyone. And I don't think I've ever seen him around the NAMM show or anywhere like that I've been where I might run into him. But hopefully one day. But the thing with Wellington is nobody comes to Wellington. It's really unfortunate. We miss out on a lot of the major acts because if they do come to New Zealand, they'll do a date in Auckland. And then if they do a second date, because Auckland's our biggest city, about 2 million people. And then Wellington, where I live, which is about an 8-hour drive south, maybe an hour on plane. Wellington has about 500,000 people over the whole greater Wellington area. So it's kind of smallish, and we don't have any particularly good venues at the moment. So people will skip that and go kind of move on, which is unfortunate. And then if they do one, they'll do one in the South Island, and they'll do either Christchurch or Dunedin, which are fairly comparable size cities, maybe half as big. But yeah, so we miss out on things like that. So says, is that an Ovation roundback on C in the rack? Yes, it is. And you said, I hear mixed opinions about those. How about you? Yeah, it's a nylon string Ovation. I've had it for a long time, probably 20 years. I think it's a 78 or sometime around then, or 80, late 70s, early 80s. It's the same one that Pat Metheny has, except Pat Metheny's one, I think, has a cutaway and my one doesn't. But you could order them in the same year with either or. It's actually a really good guitar. I'm going to grab it. Give me one sec. Hopefully you'll hear this. Alright, what have I done with my ears? It's such a pain to put the in-ears, take them in and out. But yeah, so this is a 78 or an 81 Ovation. I bought it because of the Pat Metheny kind of connection. I'm not crazy about the back, but it works. It's sort of, you get used to it, but it is a little bit slippery. But yeah, I think Pat's has a cutaway there. Otherwise, these are pretty much the same. But also mine has the strap button there, which is a better place to put it. If you put it on the back of the neck, it could potentially split it. You see a lot of older guitars that have a split in that point because of it, and this of course is this hard plastic stuff. Is it going to be in tune? Probably not. Right, let's tune it. Nylon string guitars seem to be worse for staying in tune. It's funny, I was a guest on the Gear podcast with Leon, Todd and Troy. If you guys don't know that one, it's really good. Enjoy their podcast. And the one question they asked me is, if you could just have 3 guitars, what would you have? And I was like, some kind of Strat type guitar, some kind of humbuckery guitar like a 335 or a Les Paul or whatever, and then a nylon. Sorry, no, I might have said nylon. Some kind of electric guitar, some kind of acoustic guitar, and then a nylon string. And they were like, wow, nylon string doesn't even equate in what we do. Because those guys are such rockers, you know. Sticky on the back there. I think it needs a bit of a clean off. Maybe something's been spilt on it or whatever. But it's a very cool guitar. It has a beautiful top on it, which I think is part of it. It's a very warm sounding guitar. I like it for jazz stuff. I would never use it for classical. It's too warm and doesn't have enough brightness for a classical kind of sound. But I have another nylon string up there somewhere, an Ibanez one, which wasn't overly cheap, which is a much better classical instrument. So if I have a gig where I have to play some classical music, which happens sometimes, I get these gigs like Opera in the Park in Nelson and things like that, which, you know, you're playing with opera singers. They usually want you to play a couple of classical pieces, and then usually at those gigs they have some pop singers and stuff. I can't remember who did it. Oh no, last year was Dave Dobbin, the backed Dave Dobbin, well-known New Zealand singer for those that don't know him. He's had a bunch of hits here. And before that was Don McGlashan, who's had a bunch of hits too, and Julia Deans and various people like that that bought him. Yeah, so yeah, it's cool. I'm getting an Al Di Meola vibe from that guitar too. Yeah, right. Al's a great player. He's a monster player, actually. Anything you people want to know? It's funny, this guitar has quite a bit of wear on the fretboard. It probably speaks volumes about where I play the most, right? If you have a look here, it's not all that worn. Have a look here, it's not all that worn. Like the bulk of it is that part of the neck, right? I really like P90s though. I think P90s are great pickups. They are noisy pickups, unfortunately, as you can hear. Like that's what a humbuck would be. So I actually find P90s probably the noisiest of all guitar pickups because there's such a big pickup, right? So there's a lot more space to pick up noise, and they're single coil. Cheers everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope music's treating you well and life's treating you well. Haven't been to Melbourne for a while. So Helix Wheels says, do you have any live gigs coming up? Yes, I do. Yep. Next couple of weeks have been quiet. I need to check my diary. I can't remember what I said yes to. I know there's some stuff. What have I said yes to? What are we today? 15th. Oh, really a couple exciting things that are not necessarily gigs, but I should mention to you. I've got Ben Fulton from Red Witch Pedals coming in to do an interview. So Ben makes these astounding guitar pedals. This is the Serafina, which serial number Nick G. He made me my own kind of unique one. I'm not really much of a fuzz pedal user, but when I do use a fuzz pedal, this is the only one I'm going for. It's got a fuzz plus an octave thing, so Hendrixy kind of vibe, that thing. But I'm going to interview Ben for this channel and put it on here. I want to talk to him about guitar pedals and how he got into that. And Ben's a fine guitar player too, really big on the Jimi Hendrix type thing. So I'm teaching on the MEFA, MEFA, Musicworks workshops from the 25th to the 27th. I'm doing 3 days of that, and then I'm doing, actually, funny enough, not guitar gig, but filming some competition on the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday. Which is something I've done a few years over now for my friend Roger Fox, who's sadly passed away this year. But he runs this youth competition, so I'll be doing that for him. And then what have I got? Let me see. Yeah, next couple of weeks are quiet. Oh, Wellington Jazz Festival. I've got two concerts I'm doing. I'm doing on the 18th of October. I'm doing my double drum gig. Going to drive down from Tauranga to come and be part of that. So I've got Darren Mathiasen, one of my favourite drummers ever, period, just beast. I've got Stan Bicknell driving down from Tauranga, and I've got Leo Cogini, and we're going to do a quartet thing, do my double drums thing at the Capital Blues Club, so that'll be fun. We won't be playing blues, we'll be playing funky kind of stuff, but they're Blues and Roots Club. And then the Saturday of that, I'm actually really excited about this. I'm going to play my album Refractions for the Jazz Festival concert, and I'm going to play the album from beginning to end, which is something I haven't done before. I've never played any of my albums and played the entire compositions from beginning to end. So it'll be interesting. I've got Frank Talbot coming down from Auckland for that, and then I've got Lance Phillip and Rory McCartney as the rhythm section, who will be excellent and strong readers. So that'll be quick and good to get together. That album's interesting because a lot of it is like sort of blues themed a bit, but there's a lot of floaty kind of things where we kind of go into rubato, and then things kind of change tempos and move around a lot. So you have to be able to play grooves, but you also have to have intuition, and you have to be able to go all kinds of places. So so that's the Jazz Festival. And then I'm off to Christchurch to do a concert with the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra, and they're doing this the week after that, in the end of October, and they're doing an album of a concert, I should say, not an album, of Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin's music. They got 4 singers, so I'll be going down. I haven't played with Christchurch Symphony before. I've played with all the other orchestras in New Zealand, but not that one. I've been booked 3 times to play with them, and it hasn't happened. Twice I've been cancelled by COVID, and another one I got this injury on my arm. It was really bizarre. Got this bruise that kind of all happened right along my arm like that, and I didn't know why. My arm was aching, so I unfortunately had to bail on the gig, which I hate doing. But they were totally cool about sending them a photo of the bruise, and they're like, look, and I was also kind of the mindset that if anything goes wrong with this while I'm away, not in home. So yeah, anyway, that'll be cool. Helix Will says Wellington Jazz Festival sounds good. I need an excuse to travel across from Sydney. Yeah, it'll be a good one. It's a good jazz festival this year. They have the headline acts are this dude Alexander Flood, which I didn't know, but sort of a drum and bass drummer guy, and then Esperanza Spalding, who's excellent. She's on the Saturday. So either come and see my gig or come and see Esperanza. Right, and on the Wednesday, I think, is Marcus Miller and his band. So that'll be funky as hell, and that'll be great. Is that worth coming from Sydney for? I think so. And then, of course, there'll be a heap of gigs, like local gigs around town. They usually have about 100 gigs on for the festival. It's quite a big one, considering how small Wellington is, you know what I mean? Cheers, everyone. Yeah, so that was my Refractions album. Which was one I did, wasn't my most recent album, it was one I did 2 or 3 back, which I did in Auckland with Roger Mannins and Ron Sampson and Ollie Holland, and I composed a bunch of music for it. It actually kind of was the result of my master's degree. I did a master's degree at Auckland University and spent a year studying the John Scofield album Meant to Be, and I kind of dissected that music and pulled it apart and composed some tunes based off it, wrote some big band jazz, did all this stuff. And by the way, too, if you want a copy of it, of my master's thesis, you can get it at Buy Me a Coffee. I've got it on there. I think it's $5 or $10. So not much, and that's a year of my life I put into that work. Like, it's pretty detailed, and there's a lot of Schofield transcriptions in there. I basically transcribed pretty much that whole album and wrote. There's the whole of my entire Refractions album, the transcriptions in there, all kinds of stuff. So check it out if you want to. But yeah, the Refractions album was done that way, and it, like I said, it was kind of this thing of built on sort of blues and funk sort of things, but in a jazz group. Very much a jazz group, so acoustic drums, acoustic bass, saxophone, guitar, but guitar being the more electric sound and everything else being very acoustic, and with the idea being a lot of things were kind of float. So we might start a groove, something like, there was one tune that was essentially just A minor, that's all the entire tune was, and I wrote this melody out for Roger to play. It was just something I improvised, and then he was free to play it whenever and however he wants. Like, it had no rhythm attached to it. So we'd sort of start something and get this little mood, and he'd go, and then it would morph into this other thing, and then it would go here, and then it would go here. It was so much fun. And then, of course, there were some groove tunes in there too. There's a couple of kind of fast swinging tunes. I'm gonna have to learn all that music again. I haven't played much of it since. There's one tune on there that I have played a little bit, but it's actually detuned to E flat. But I can play it in E if you want to hear it. It goes. Yeah, so that was that tune, sort of a New Orleans feel about it. It's kind of blues, but it's blues with chord changes, counterpoint things, like, you got this E7 sharp 9 sound, which really is like the Hendrix chord, a little different. You play it like this, right? And then this next bit, so the F sharp chord with an E, and then the melody line on top descends. Chord goes upwards, melody line descends. So this sort of stuff, right? And then this very abstract kind of bridge. So my in-ears were coming out too. And then a big bass fill. And I kind of played that bright chord on the end of it. So yeah, so that's one that I do play on occasion. Last time I played that song, actually, I used the Fractal FM9, and there is a pitch detune in there where you can, I think they call it virtual capo, where like if you take a capo and put it here, all of a sudden your notes are like F, B flat, E flat, A flat, C, F, right? But you can do the same thing the other way around and essentially play an E flat, but you're not really playing an E flat. You're playing regular tuning, but it comes out sounding. There's a little bit of latency, so it's kind of tough. But that saved me having to bring another guitar to play that one tune. So it was awesome. And when I originally wrote the tune, I wrote it in E. But I remember playing it and just thinking, it just doesn't sound right. There's something wrong with this. And I thought what it was afterwards, I started thinking about it after we played it the first time, was E's not a good key for a saxophone. I was like, why am I doing this in E just because it suits the guitar? He's got to play the tune, right? Like he had the melody for it and a solo and stuff. So just detuned the whole guitar to E flat, and we recorded it, and it was like so much better. Yeah. Cheers, everybody. I hope you're all well. It's been a long time since I've been to Sydney. I really like Sydney. Some great musicians in Sydney. Peter Koopman, someone I know, guitar player from Auckland, who's now moved over to Sydney and doing really well. He's been playing with that guy Donny Benet, I think his name is. Hitting the road, doing a lot of gigs. But Koopman's a good player, man. He can really play. And then, of course, there's Jonathan Swartz from Wellington, who's one of the top Sydney bass players, without a doubt. The other day, Deuteronomy says, the other day you demonstrated some diminished scales idea. Could you expand on that perhaps in the context of a blues, 12-bar blues? Yeah, so there's a couple of diminished chords that I use on a blues. One that I like to use is if we have the 1 chord, and then we go to the 4 chord. Alright? When I'm going to go back to the 4 chord in the 5th bar, and that a B flat 7 flat 9, that kind of tonality. Right, so I'll use half hole diminished, straight out of the Robin Ford playbook. Right, it's just semitone, tone, semitone, tone. Right. Actually did a video already on half hole diminished, so if you want to see that done slower, go and check that out. But I'll play that in the 4th bar leading into the 5th bar to get me to this, right? And the key to it, as always, is resolution. So here's a blues. So there I resolved that delay is a bit annoying, isn't it? Let's get rid of that. I'll give you another example. If you just joined me, please like the video, and if you haven't subscribed, definitely subscribe. That's a cool thing to do. Right, here goes. So blues in B flat. 2, 3, 4. I'll give you another example. I'm being way more obvious about this than I usually would be, right? To me, it's like I want to be subtle about it, because it's and also too, I'd never do it in my first chorus. I'd establish the sound, and then maybe the second chorus I'd sort of start weaving a little bit out, a little bit more, and then the third chorus is more where I'd use that, right? Oh, thank you. I'm glad you think it sounds good. I like that sound too. Some people don't. They find it a bit intense, but you do what you do, right? And the other place I use diminished chords on blues typically is if we go to the 4 chord. Instead of having 2 bars on the 4 chord, it's kind of a little uninteresting. It needs some movement a lot of the time. So I'll go E diminished, right? Which you'll see written in some charts. So I'll show you what that sounds. So we go B flat, and then to the 4 chord, called a quick 4. 4th bar, 5th bar, and then here, that diminished, right? So yeah, it sounds very Sco-like if you do it with that kind of tone. I mean, I'm on bridge pickup and I'm kind of playing closer down. Those sort of Sco-ish type things, but yeah, it does sound kind of Sco-ish. But yeah, that's one I use in the 6th bar. Is that diminished there? Another one I sometimes use is the same thing on the 5 chord to get me to the 2 chord, the implied 5 of the 2 chord, which would be the 6th chord, but implied that. So those are ones that work. Sometimes I use them in the 5 chord, but not very often. There's other things I'll use in that instance. The other thing to remember, sometimes it depends on the context of the gig, right? If you're playing a blues gig and it's like a down home kind of blues gig song, don't be doing this stuff. It's just wrong, right? So for me, it's like if the gig is this, I mean, sometimes I'll kind of indulge a little bit, you know what I mean? But generally, up a video the other day of Neil and I playing in the Powerhouse Blues Band, and played over one of those sort of grooves. And I actually played a lot more swing kind of stuff over it. And the reason I did that is that, usually when I'm playing those sort of grooves, I want to kind of play within that bag. But that's exactly what Neil did. And often what I'm doing, if there's two solos, say there's somebody solos and then I solo afterwards, usually what I try and do is try and contrast what they do. So if they play really busy, like lots and lots of notes, then I'll try and play something really sparse and long held notes. If they play really long sparse notes, maybe I'll play something very rhythmic, more funkier kind of thing. So he played like quite down home, so I kind of went more like kind of swinging. At least what I was thinking is swinging blues, kind of like Duke Robillard or someone like that. It was kind of fun. Had someone criticized me for it, and that's totally fine. I don't mind people leaving criticism. When people are dicks, then your comments go and get deleted. Right? Because I just don't have time for negativity. I can't be bothered. I'm sure you all feel the same way, right? Like, when people are trolling and they're just trying to get a rise out of you, and it's like, come on, man. I've actually been keeping a folder on my phone of, I call it shit talkers on YouTube. You'd be surprised. And I mean, my channel's only a small one, right? Like, I don't know, this isn't really, it's growing fairly quickly. But I'm happy just doing this. It's cool, I mean, I'm not trying to be Rick Beato or someone else like that, you know what I mean? But imagine the amount of shit talkers Rick Beato must get. It must be like ridiculous. I remember seeing a video of the Dirty Loops back in the day, and it was incredible, It was the days when YouTube used to show the down thumbs, how many he had. And they had 6,000 up thumbs and 3,000 down thumbs. And I just thought, 3,000 people just don't get this. Why do people bother, like, watching things they're not into? Nah, you don't get it. I mean, to me, there's not enough hours in the day. I'm not going to waste my time with anything I'm not into. It's like, I'm moving on to, I want to spend my time watching the stuff I dig. I was enjoying playing this guitar the other day, too. I haven't played it in a while. It's a really good guitar. I did that video on the mini humbucker. Before I drop anything. This is the Talman. It's a good guitar. This, I've said before that I think this is one that Ibanez should reissue, but with a couple of little tweaks. Because these things are great, in my opinion. They're the tweak I would have, the one thing that bothers me the most about it is the nut width, which is 41 millimeters. 42 or 43 is like where I want to be. 43 preferably. It's just a little small for my hands. I can get around it. Like it's not going to stop me playing. And maybe bigger frets. But these things are killer. They were really, really high-end guitars, for what they're... I remember taking it to Rob Matthews, a guitar tech in Wellington, when I first got it, and to get a setup, because I always do that whenever I get a new guitar. It's like, I want to set up how I like it, because I'm so used to Elixir strings too. If I have like normal round wound strings, they feel really grippy to me and horrible. I can't play it. Oh, no, it's not that I can't play it, but I just don't, it's not my thing. But I took it to Rob and he goes, oh, kind of an interesting looking guitar. And then he had a quick look at a few things and he kind of went, oh, wow, okay. There's lots of subtle little things like this, that it's got that little corner just round off so that you can get up there nice and easy. You know what I mean? And the tummy tuck, it's not a big tummy tuck, it's just a little one, And then a little bit here. Again, so it just sits kind of, it's very ergonomic. It came with Seymour Duncans in it. That's actually the original bridge pickup, but it had a Seymour Duncan not antiquities, they were Alnico 2s, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but Alnico 2, but I found that I just wanted a mini in there. That mini humbucker sounds good too. Sometimes they're too smooth and too warm, but yours sounds great. Yeah, I'd agree, they totally can be. But that's kind of what I want from a neck pickup. I want that fat, warm kind of thing, you know what I mean? As long as it's got some clarity. It's a good sounding guitar. And yeah, these are Mr. Glenn's, so I've changed out the pickups and they really work much better than what was in there, in my opinion. Yeah, it probably is a little warmer actually than you would typically have there, but any questions? Anything people want to know? If you've just joined me, please like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. It's much appreciated. I'm having a gin and tonic right now. It's been a nice warm day actually in Wellington. Just got back this afternoon. Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't, it's got a certain sort of sound about it, but it's not really a Telecaster, is it? Sort of has a Strat Tele vibe about it. Let me see if I can get this. There we go, I just got it. I actually did a little more to this guitar the other day. Can't leave it alone. That's how you go. I gave that a little bit of a smoother thing. It was just a little bit rough. The other one I did too is I just took that edge off in there. Just softened it slightly. It still feels like a Tele, feels like it's in the same place. But you can instantly see I need to give that a bit more gain or something. Let's push it up about there. So you can see that neck pickup on the Telecaster is not a world away from that mini humbucker, is it? Anything you people want to know? Let me know. Yeah, diminished chords. I like diminished chords. It's funny, diminished chords seem to have fallen out of favor with people for some reason. I don't particularly know why. I think diminished chords are great. Maybe it's something about diminished chords remind people of old school, so people are kind of getting away from that a little bit, like Ain't But Misbehaving' or something like that. One of those old tunes. That stuff, right? It's like G sharp diminished, A minor, B flat diminished, B minor, B7, right? But yes, it's interesting. In my live stream from last week, I played Darth Vader's theme, and I got a copyright notice for that by the Prague Symphony Orchestra. The algorithm picked it up as being that. It's like, really? It's just me playing my guitar. If one guitar can sound like the Prague Symphony Orchestra, wow, I'm happy with that. And the other one I did was I played Cavatina, and I got done by some Latin artist, and I was like, oh, come on. So I'm kind of hesitant about using tracks today. Going through a few guitars today. Seems cool. Let's go back to the PRS. The P90s. Can't wait for the new ones to arrive. Must be in a courier by now. On the way here. Whoa, very different, isn't it? If a little more presence would help that. Tell that. It's definitely better. Just took the presence control on the amp model and just cranked it up. Yeah, so dude says regarding the copyright strikes, were you playing those tunes yourself live as opposed to playing the recordings? Yeah, I was playing. It was me playing them, literally just me and my guitar. So I didn't play the recording at all, and yet they pinged it as being that particular recording by the Prague Symphony Orchestra. So I've disputed it, of course, but you have to wait a month and kind of just dumb. I haven't really set up adverts on my YouTube channel. Maybe one day I will. I know how annoying adverts are, so as long as I can kind of avoid that, I will. That's one of the reasons I kind of dislike these copyright notices, because now all of a sudden they're going to put an advert in there. So it's not me putting it there, it's YouTube putting it there to pay money to the person who owns that song. But in these cases, they don't own them. They don't know. Star Wars, for a start, is John Williams, not the Prague Symphony Orchestra. And it was me playing it on my guitar. Yeah, it's interesting. This guitar, I really love the feel of this neck. I've taken, it was done before I got it, but they took most of the finish off. It's a very yellowy looking finish. But now it just feels so nice to just have wood. What's going on here? It's the problem when you get up to move things around. Oh, I see that caught around the seat. There we go. That's better. Yeah. An interesting thing, I was thinking about this morning. I'm going to do a video, but I'll kind of run you through it now. There's something that I think makes people sound like intermediate and beginner players more than anything else. And you know what it is? the biggest thing that makes someone sound like an intermediate player is rushing the beat. When I hear someone go, just sitting on the groove. And yet when I hear intermediate players do that, they're so eager to get on with that and get the solo done that they start pushing up on the beat too much. And to me, it's one of the telltale signs of if somebody's an intermediate player or an advanced player. It's like, where is the groove? And I can tell within 4 bars where they're at. In 4 bars, I hear them, if it's either sitting in the pocket or not, I go, okay, that's where that's at. It's straight away, right? It's not a technique thing. It's kind of it's a groove thing, right? Advanced players don't do that. I was listening to Guthrie Trap just before I did this live stream, and Guthrie, I don't hear that guy racing the beat. Do you know what I mean? He's sitting it right in the pocket and felt fantastic what he was playing. He's a great player. And yet what he was playing was something kind of R&B like. It was something like... See, even that, like... waited to come down on the downbeat instead of like a lot of people do. We kind of just rush that beat and kill the whole groove, right? It's funny too, like I was watching this video, someone was talking about groove and pocket, this guitar player, and I was like, oh, this should be interesting. Anyway, he played in the first, I heard 4 bars, and I was like, dude, you're rushing. You are doing a video about pocket, and you're rushing. But the rushing the beat is one of the big ones that tells me straight away that someone's an amateur. Or not amateur, but you know what I mean, like not on the next level, like on a pro level, so to speak. Another one, and it's a big one, is like what makes someone sound like amateur to me is the vibrato. When I hear this kind of stuff, and without intention, you know what I mean? It's just done because they don't know any different. I don't hear. You can see they're very intentional in my vibrato, right? And usually the reason for that is that like beginner and intermediate players, you're focusing on trying to get the notes right. You're not even thinking about the vibrato yet because you're not at that point, right? So that's another one that's a dead giveaway of someone being at an intermediate level of playing is the vibrato. So rushing the beat, the vibrato. Another one is like too many notes like all the time. Yeah. All guitar players are guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I just overindulge. We all do, right? But I mean all the time. And then leave a gap, right? Beginner player, and intermediate players too, what I find too is that a lot of intermediate players are really scared of leaving space. Because what happens is if they leave a gap, they're like, oh, am I going to lose my spot? But if they keep playing, then they're thinking to themselves, if I keep playing, and even they might be thinking this subconsciously, if I keep playing, then I won't lose my place, right? Whereas the confidence of somebody who's kind of been around a bit will be to be... No doubt you can probably even hear my foot going. I'm still counting the beats I'm not playing. Yeah, so horn players have to take breaths so naturally phrase well. Yeah, I wouldn't say that all of them naturally phrase well, but their instrument does lend towards it. You're exactly right. I hear some horn players just their phrasing is crap, and another one that you can tell, like with beginner horn players, right, is that they get that particular sound. You know, when you get a saxophone player and they play, and you just there's a certain sound that beginners get that you just don't hear with the pros, right? But yeah, you're right. Having to breathe makes you phrase, right? But there's a confidence that has to be there to leave that breath because a lot of people are scared they're going to lose the form, or they're not going to know when to come in, or but even if this stuff is going on subconsciously in their mind, you know what I mean? So that would be it. I'd say rushing the beat. I'd say vibrato. I'd say playing too many notes, like all the time. A dig giveaways of someone not really knowing what they know. And I play a track. If I get a copyright strike, well, whatever. I wonder if I can do if this is all plugged in. It should be. Got my iPad here. I usually run tracks on my iPad. I kind of feeling like playing some blues. You want to hear some blues? Yeah, this will do. Slow, greasy blue B-flat blues. This is Phil Wilkinson music. I've played a bunch of his tracks before. You all will know them, I hope. I'm going to find a bluesier tone. Let's find a bluesier tone. I kind of want to juice this a little bit. I have to pull that volume down quite a bit. Yeah, that's cool. Let's juice the treble. Yeah, so it's one thing that's interesting with these modelers, right? I'm using the FM9 at the moment. I've got the editor in front of me. Is sometimes people I think are kind of scared to just turn the gain up, like you would on an amp. You know, if you really want it to drive, you may just turn the clean channel up and drive it. Why not? Get that level right. Yeah, that's a bit of fun. I quite like that sound. It's a little mid-rangey, just these pickups. I do quite like P90s for this sort of sound. What have I got here? So I mean, that's meant to be a clean tone. It's kind of... Oh yeah. This is going to be loud. Let me pull the volume down a bit. Oh yeah, I'm going to get a copyright strike for this, but whatever. Whatever that is. I remember playing that one time with the orchestra. It was a whole lot of fun, that James Bond theme. James Bond theme. James Brown would love if he wrote that. He'd written that. But I think P90s work really well for that. The kind of edgy Jack White sort of style of playing, which is fun, you know. Fuzz pedal into some kind of amp, you know. Anyway, folks, I'm going to have to wrap up in a minute. So any quick questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to have to... I've got to my 1 hour, which I usually try to stick to an hour for this stuff. Still takes forever to upload. Any hot takes you want from me? I've seen so many people play that differently. Wrong, you know. They got the wrong. It's got to have that top note, right? Great Dean Parks. If you don't know who Dean Parks is, you should. He's one of the greatest session players of all time. You've heard him even if you don't realize it. The DreamWorks movies, you know, you used to put a DVD on and they had that little thing at the beginning of the DreamWorks movie, and maybe they still do on Netflix or whatever it is on now. But that little logo thing with the nylon string guitar, there's Dean Parks. Steely Dan, you know. That dude's a legend. I've spoken to him a couple of times online. We were talking about possibly meeting up at the NAMM show next year, so that'll be fun if I do get to meet up with Dean. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, people. And thank you for everybody's support of the channel and what I'm doing here with this whole YouTube thing. I really appreciate you being here. This is a one-man operation. It's just me in this my little studio here in a bedroom in our house, and talking about music and guitar and all the things that appeal to me. It's funny, I've had a bunch of advice from people. And it's like, oh, okay, you know, everyone's expert, right? You know, especially these SEO guys, that kind of stuff is a whole hella annoying. But nonetheless, it's like I'm just doing this because I enjoy doing it, and as long as you enjoy doing it, then I'll keep doing it. And it's growing, so I'm happy with that. Maybe it could grow faster, whatever. Whatever. I'm not trying to be famous like some. You see people on YouTube that are trying to be famous. It's like, I could care less about any of that. That's why I've always been. My whole career has been being a sideman. You know, I put out my own projects, but they're really just for me for the most part. You know, like an expression of who I am, and if people dig it, then that's totally cool. But a lot of what I do, the session stuff, is being a sideman. It's like supporting other people to do their thing, and I really enjoy that. You know, I love seeing people shine. That to me is kind of a beautiful thing in music. So anyway, have a great night, people. See you soon. Cheers.